Serious, people who enter other people's homes as a part of your job, maintenance workers, etc. What's the weirdest thing you've seen inside someone's home? I was on a ride along with the fire department. We responded to smell of smoke in an apartment building. We found the apartment fast enough because the fire alarm was going off inside. We walk in to find this guy naked as the day he was born, passed out on the floor in front of the TV with corn on way louder than it should be and the remnants of a pizza in the oven. So this isn't weird, but it was the most shocking. I was working with adults with intellectual disabilities that lived in residential homes. It was one of my first weeks in the job and a co-worker was taking me out to a home to show me what she did when she did home reviews. We get to the house, open the door, and we are instantly hit with a wall of air smelling like feces. 2 steps in and it was apparently, there was diarrhea on a chair, on the carpet and random splotches all over. The whole house was in shambles. The fridge was full of moldy foods, and I'll never forget picking up the shredded cheese, shaking the bag, and seeing green mold flakes go up and down. Food was splattered all over the cabinets, the beds were stained with urine and feces and expired canned food was found everywhere. The staff there had been neglecting those guys for a long time and no one had bothered to check up on them. Used to work for a concrete company, and our mixer trucks would sometimes damage property. Typically my partner and I did maintenance on the plants, but we'd get sent to job sites to unduct whatever the drivers did. So while at one house, we had to tear up the driveway, replace the culvert and repair the end of the driveway. The first day we were there, all the old snoopy neighbors were standing around watching us, and I had to wee pretty bad. So I asked the homeowner if I could use his bathroom. He said sure, and led me through his house, past a bathroom, into the bathroom in the master bedroom. Already creeped out by that. Oh, also I noticed cameras all over the place. Some pointed out windows, some pointed into the rooms. Creep factor leveled up. So he leads me to the bathroom, opens the door and holds it for me like you would at a store when someone is behind you. I say thanks. He still stands there. I had to walk past him and yank the door closed. While leaving, I notice a bedroom decked out in kids stuff. This would normally not toss up any flags. Grandkids room probably, right? But with all the added creepiness, it just didn't seem normal at all. Told my partner. He laughed and pointed out there were probably cameras in the bathroom. If either of us had to wee after that, we drove down to the gas station. Cleaning a huge condo for a wealthy book publisher, the owner felt that cats were sacred, so they had suspended walkways through the entire 6K square FT condo for the 2 cats to walk on, so they could move through every room without having to touch the floor. Additionally, every 12 feet or so in each room, they had a cat balcony the cats could sit on made out of real crystal. We weren't allowed to touch them as they were valued at $10,000 a piece. Service plumber here. At the house of an elderly lady, at least 75 years old, and there's naked pictures of her on all the walls and several sausages all about. It was interesting. My parents have a friend who commissioned a portrait of herself naked from the waist up. She and her husband hang this giant professional portrait, front and center, in their living room and have since their children were young. They're interesting. Back in the early 90s, I worked for a company that removed old electric water heaters and replaced them with propane-powered water heaters. Because propane water heaters can possibly spew carbon monoxide, there are state regulations as to where the water heaters can and can't be placed, so it was my job to inspect the water heater room and draw up plans for ventilation, if necessary. I showed up at a client's home to inspect the area where he had his water heater to see if we needed to install any vents. When I asked to see his current water heater, he seemed a little uncomfortable and said, "I have something in the room that I forgot to clean up." I followed him to the room, and when he opened the door, the smell of weed hit me. In the water heater room, he had fishing lines strung up with trimmed plants being dried. If I were to guess, there must have been a couple pounds of weed drying in there. He said, "Oops, sorry about that." I smiled and told him, "No problem. I don't even know what that is." I knew exactly what it was, but I didn't want the guy to get worried about me telling someone. He offered me some, but I told him, "No thanks. I don't know what that is." As I was leaving, He asked me, "You aren't going to tell anyone about the plants, are you?" I asked, "What plants?" The guy smiled, then said, "You sure you don't want some?" I definitely wanted some, but I was still pretty new at my job, so I didn't want to take the chance that accepting weed from him would blow up in my face. Before I left, I told him, "Make sure you clear that closet before our guys arrive. They might not be happy about the plants I didn't see." I do odd jobs on the side. Oftentimes I help older people move. Recently we were moving a large dresser that the owner, an older gentleman, didn't bother to clean out or tape up. His VHS Corno collection came falling out. Who the hell keeps VHS Corno these days? We know for a fact he had internet. As a maintenance guy at a large apartment complex, I've seen some shit. Naked people, really gross people, but thank God no dead people. I remember doing an emergency water repair and had to go into an occupied unit. It was the strangest thing. It was pretty much empty, dirty but empty, like no one lives there. No furniture, not even a bed, just a shitty mattress on the floor, and some clothes scattered around, and at least 30 pairs of Nike shoes, all sorts of weird colors. Like this guy had no TV or couch but had a collection of expensive shoes, all the same size from what I could tell. I don't know, it wasn't as bad as a few hoarder units we had. Yeah, this is a thing. I've known a few people who I'm sure live this way. Nothing to do, so they're always out in town, no apparent income, no hobbies, but they look fresh as hell every time they go out. Doesn't seem like something I'd want to do, but I guess there are worse things to do with your time than dressing nice and having social interactions. Worked as a furniture delivery guy for a rent-to-own place in Iowa for a couple of years, and I saw some absolutely crazy shit. We were delivering a couch to someone, and when we arrived there was no answer to our knocking. We called our manager back at the store and explained that no one was home. He tells us to hang out for a minute while he tries getting in touch with the customer. While we're waiting, we start hearing this weird sort of screeching sound coming from a detached garage. We decided to investigate the noise. We turned the corner to the front of the garage and came face to face with the meanest, scariest looking monkey I've ever seen. It was in the garage, but they had like this wire fence keeping it inside. The entire garage was its cage. In the middle of BFE-IA. I have no idea what type of monkey it was. It was large and very angry. Was the monkey the customer? Did you give him the couch? Did someone eventually show up? Had they been eaten by the monkey? We need answers, man. Checking fire alarms, testing emergency bedside buttons in a nursing home that are like individual little apartments. Opened the door at a stench of death, and sure enough, lady dead on the bed, been there about 2 days. So I wasn't expecting so many responses, but to answer some questions. Yes, the bedside button worked fine. No, nobody was in trouble for her not being found for 2 days. This specific place is very independent. They have their own cars and are free to come and go as they please, and the only time someone comes by is for any sort of maintenance or if they have visitors stop by. That is so sad. Did you require any form of counseling afterwards? No, it happened at my second job. I'm a career firefighter most days, so I'm used to seeing/dealing with these situations. A plane. Dude was refurbishing a light aircraft in his lounge. It was only the fuselage, the wings were outside. That's certainly the weirdest. Here's an actually not that impressive picture. That's actually rad. But weird he did it in his lounge instead of outside under a tent or in a garage or something. I do construction sales, so I'm in homes a lot. For me, it's the sheer number of preppers that exist today. Walk into a suburban America basement and bam. 2 dozen buckets full of survival food. Or ammo stuffed into every alcove and rafter. It's definitely not just the ones you expect. I do insulation and I've sprayed some impressive pepper spaces. My favorite was a 1,200 square foot house with a 2,000 square foot basement, concrete ceilings and walls. Part of the area was under his porches. It was a dang bunker. Dude even installed hydraulics on the vault door in case the house falls on it. I can still open the door. Yuppie, you've made it all the way to the end. While you're here, you may as well subscribe and click on one of the recommended videos. After all, it doesn't cost a thing. Wubba dubba dub dub.